Imagine for a second that a sneeze you have today, just a random Tuesday sneeze while you're listening to this, was directly caused by a star exploding thousands of light years away.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's quite a thought.
Right. Or what if that nagging back pain you've been dealing with all week wasn't from, sleeping weirdly, but was actually the direct result of a mouse that one of your ancestors killed 500 years ago?
I mean, that completely upends our everyday understanding of cause and effect. We're so deeply conditioned to view the world linearly, like you drop a glass, it breaks.
Exactly. It's simple.
Right. But what you are describing is a web of causality that's so dense and, well, intricate that it fundamentally challenges the limits of human comprehension.
Right. It feels completely impossible. But that is exactly the framework we are jumping into today. Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack two translated excerpts, specifically parts 1 and 7, which were translated by Jean in 2008.
Yeah.
And these are from a philosophical text called Suifeng Preaching Tao. And before we get into the truly extreme examples, because there are a lot of them, we really need to establish the baseline. Like, what exactly does this text mean when it uses the word Tao?
It's the essential starting point, really. In the specific context of this text, Tao is explicitly defined as the consciousness of the greatest creator.
Okay.
And just to be clear for you listening, we are simply exploring the architecture of this philosophy as it is written. We're just unpacking the ideas the author presents, not taking any sides.
Right. We're just laying out what the text says.
Exactly. So, according to this source, Tao is the driving force behind all movement and transformation. It's described as the lifeblood of the universe.
The lifeblood, okay.
Yeah, the synthesis of all laws. It isn't just a passive backdrop, It is the active, underlying current governing absolutely everything that exists.
And the text outlines 8 distinct characteristics of this Tao. But today, we're going to focus our lens on just 2 of the most mind-bending ones, which are holographic order and non-obstruction.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with this idea of a holographic universe. Because when I first read that term, my mind immediately went to, like, science fiction, a projection on a spaceship.
Oh, sure, like a hologram you can walk through.
Yeah, but the text grounds it in something entirely different.
What's fascinating here is how the author redefines holography. We aren't talking about optical illusions.
Right.
In this text, it states the universe is a living holographic entity where literally everything is interconnected.
Everything.
Yes. The defining feature of a hologram, mathematically, is that every single piece contains the information of the entire whole.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not just that things merely influence each other down a long chain of events, it's that they are fundamentally structurally bound together in this vast unseen matrix.
And the examples the author uses to illustrate this are just phenomenal. It's like the butterfly effect, but taken to a brutal, multidimensional extreme.
Absolutely.
Like the text claims that an ant's activity is related to an elephant drinking water. The fluttering of a butterfly in Alaska connects to a storm at the Cape of Good Hope, which is, the classic example. But then it pushes past weather and insects into the deeply personal.
It really does.
It argues that a cough you have today is linked to an insect you swallowed 10 years ago. It even says the suffering of a grandson today is the direct result of the mountain-digging activities of his ancestors 3,000 years ago.
Which is just a massive scale to think about. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author is illustrating that there is simply no such thing as an isolated event.
Not at all.
Right. Time and space are not barriers to these connections. The physical distance between the ant and the elephant doesn't dilute the link.
And it goes even further than physical actions. The text argues that a mosquito bite on your toe is directly linked to you getting angry later.
Yeah.
And it applies to ideology, too. It claims a statement made by Jesus or Buddha 2,000 years ago dictates human behavior today.
Which makes sense in a historical context, sure.
Right, but it even states that Darwin's theory of evolution is fundamentally connected to people losing faith in the greatest creator.
I want to pause on that Darwin example, actually, because it reveals the mechanism of how this author thinks.
Okay, how so?
Well, the text suggests that by shifting the origin narrative of humanity, like by changing the actual idea of where we come from, it ripples through the consciousness of the species.
Oh, I see.
It essentially severs a conceptual link to the creator. Everything, every action, movement, thought, and intention leaves an imprint.
Wow.
Yeah. The text says, hearts resonate whether in heaven or on earth, and spirits communicate regardless of whether they belong to insects, plants, humans, or ghosts.
So it's everything.
Yes, this is the continuous, unbroken chain of resonance that makes up the holographic order.
But I have to push back here. Because if every single action, word, and fleeting thought triggers a consequence, I mean, if my back pain is tied to a 500-year-old mouse and my cough is tied to a 10-year-old bug, doesn't that just mean the universe is a giant chaotic mess of random dominoes falling?
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. For you and me living in it, how is that anything other than total, overwhelming chaos?
This raises a really important question, and the text is very careful to draw a hard line here. In this philosophy, holography is the exact opposite of chaos.
Really?
Yeah. Chaos implies a lack of meaning. It implies that things happen randomly and for no reason. Holography, however, is intensely, fundamentally orderly.
Okay.
The author emphasizes that in the midst of all this mind-boggling complexity, everything falls into place with absolute precision.
So it's like an infinite Rube Goldberg machine.
Well, not quite a machine, because a machine has linear, separate parts that bump into each other. The text describes Tao as an invisible divine net.
A net.
Yes, and it uses a very specific quote. It says, "Divine punishments, though slow, are always sure, with big meshes yet letting nothing slip through."
Wow, letting nothing slip through.
Exactly. It argues that life only seems uncertain to us because we lack the cognitive capacity to zoom out and see the entirety of the net. We only see the tiny thread we are standing on.
Which is terrifying, honestly.
It is. But the text asserts that no one, not gods, Buddhas, demons, celestials, saints, ghosts, or humans, can escape this holographic net.
Okay, so we are all caught in this incredibly rigid cosmic net. If my actions today are tethered to an ancestor swinging a pickaxe 3,000 years ago, where does that leave you, sitting there listening to us right now?
Right. Where's the free will?
Exactly. Where's the individuality? It sounds like we're just puppets playing out a script written by trillions of interconnected variables.
That is the natural next hurdle. But rather than using the structure to negate individuality, the text actually uses it to prove why you are utterly unique.
Wait, really? How?
It breaks down the specific architecture of this holography.
Huh.
The text details that within this structure, there are 36 8-diagram arrays, 36 dimensional spaces, 20 parallel worlds, and 64 basic factors.
Wait, 64 basic factors. Are we talking about something like DNA base pairs, or is this referencing the 64 hexagrams in the I Ching? Because throwing out numbers like 36-dimensional spaces sounds a bit like cosmic word salad if we don't ground it.
It is deeply tied to the logic of the I Ching, which is essentially an ancient philosophical framework for mapping all possible states of change in the universe.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. So if you have 64 fundamental building blocks of reality, these basic factors, and you are arranging, combining, and error correcting them across 36 different dimensions and 20 parallel worlds, the permutations become functionally infinite.
Just astronomical numbers.
Exactly. The variations are so vast that human intelligence cannot possibly calculate them.
So because the recipe involves an astronomical number of ingredients spread across multiple dimensions, every single cake comes out completely different.
It's more nuanced than just coming out different. It's about absolute mathematical singularity. The text emphasizes that because of this infinite math, each person plays their own game.
Their own.
Yes, it states explicitly, you are you. You can never become another person. It argues that even if two people are 99.9% similar in their makeup within a 36-dimensional matrix, that tiny 0.01% difference is enough to make a world of difference.
Wow.
Yeah, as distant as 1,000 miles. Your specific coordinate in the divine net is entirely mathematically yours.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text doesn't just want to hand you a metaphysical math equation.
Yeah.
It promises a massive reward if you can actually internalize this reality.
It does.
It claims that if you truly understand this holographic nature, you reach a state of absolute Zen. And the imagery the author uses to describe this enlightenment is incredible.
The stoicism described in the text is absolute. It outlines a state of being completely unbothered by the external world, precisely because you understand the underlying order of the net.
Right. The text says you could face the collapse of Mount Tai without blinking an eye.
Which is an intense image.
Yeah, you could smile with a knife at your throat. You could remain completely unruffled, even in the face of death or the ruin of your family.
That is extreme detachment.
It says even if the sky falls and the earth shatters the next second, you continue to be calm and relaxed. That is a level of detachment that is almost terrifying. I mean, if you're listening to this and thinking about the things that stress you out, like deadlines, relationships, money, imagine just smiling as a mountain collapses in front of you.
It's a lot to wrap your head around. But within the framework of the text, that detachment isn't coldness, it's ultimate liberation.
Okay.
It claims that reaching this state means one has already become a celestial being. By understanding the holographic characteristic of Tao, you realize that death, as we conventionally fear it, ceases to exist.
It's just a shift in the net.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You escape what the text calls the kingdom of necessity, where you are constantly driven by survival, reaction, and stress, and you enter the kingdom of freedom.
And in this kingdom of freedom, what are you actually supposed to do?
The text is beautifully simple on this point. It says all paths are open, skills are effortlessly wielded, and there's nothing left to do but enjoy leisure and play.
So ultimate enlightenment means you finally get to stop grinding and just enjoy the cosmic playground.
That's a promise. Yeah.
I think anyone listening can get behind that. But this brings up a massive logistical problem. If this vast divine net connects a grandson to a 3,000-year-old ancestor or a sneeze to an exploding star across 36 dimensions, how does that data actually travel?
Ah, the infrastructure question.
All right, physical networks have limitations. So what is the cosmic infrastructure doing the heavy lifting here?
This is where we arrive at the second major concept from the excerpt, which is the seventh characteristic of Tao, called non-obstruction.
Non-obstruction.
Yes, non-obstruction simply means unimpeded passage. It is the ability to penetrate through absolutely everything without hindrance.
And to really grasp the weight of this, we have to look at how we understand speed. In the physical world, everything has a hard limit. Even light, the fastest thing we know of, takes about 8 minutes to travel from the sun to the earth. If I want to send you a message, I have to rely on a carrier, like a fiber optic cable, a radio wave, a physical letter.
And every single one of those carriers experiences blockages.
Exactly.
A signal drops. A solid object blocks the light. The fundamental reality of matter is that when it hits an obstacle, it either slows down, deflects, or stops entirely.
But the text argues that the speed of Tao is completely exempt from this physics.
Yes, the text claims the speed of Tao is zero.
Zero.
It takes zero time to travel from one point to another. It's perfectly instantaneous. It doesn't travel through space in the way light does. It simply is everywhere at once.
It's like a single drop of water hitting a pond.
I'd actually refine that, because even a ripple in a pond takes time to reach the edge.
Yeah.
The concept of non-obstruction is more like a macro-scale quantum entanglement.
Okay, I'm tracking.
If the universe is a single, vast organism, Tao is the central nervous system extending to every tiny point.
That makes perfect sense. If you prick your toe on a thorn, your brain doesn't have to wait for an email from your foot to know it happened.
Exactly.
It feels it instantly. There's zero lag time.
Yes. And to ground this concept, the text gives some extreme, highly specific examples of what non-obstruction looks like in practice. Imagine a person sealed inside a room made of 10-meter-thick iron plates.
10 meters thick.
Yes, they are completely physically isolated from the outside world. No physical wave, no radio signal, no light can penetrate it.
Yeah, a 10-meter iron vault. You aren't getting a cell signal in there.
Right. Yet the text states that this person would still be able to instantly sense external spiritual fluctuation, like waves of consciousness, from the outside world.
Through the iron.
Through the iron. And the outside world would sense their consciousness, too. Furthermore, even sealed in that iron box, they could see into higher-level life spaces, like the 1,000-year world, or lower-level spaces like the plant world.
And it even says that if that person were to die inside that isolated iron room, their soul would instantly travel to the corresponding space.
Unimpeded.
Yeah, the iron plate does absolutely nothing to block the movement of consciousness.
Because consciousness, in this framework, operates via Tao. If the speed of Tao is zero, then space is essentially an illusion.
Wow.
The 10-meter iron plate isn't an obstacle because, to the Tao, the inside of the box and the outside of the box are the exact same point in reality.
That is wild.
The text offers another compelling example, actually. Imagine you have a relative living tens of thousands of light years away on a distant planet, or perhaps hidden in the deepest depths of the ocean floor.
Okay.
If something significant were to happen to you, that relative would sense it instantly, not 8 minutes later, instantly, because the operation of Tao penetrates all time and space without any delay.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring this right into the room with you, the listener. If you are caught in this grand holographic net, and your consciousness is capable of penetrating 10 meters of solid iron, and you are instantly connected to 36 dimensions and 20 parallel worlds, why are you currently sitting in traffic?
Right.
Or stressing over a deadline or paying an electricity bill? Why can't you just hop over to the thousand-year world right now and enjoy some of that leisure and play?
It's the core paradox of human existence, according to this text. The author draws a parallel to Buddhism to explain the mechanism. You might be familiar with the Buddha's teaching that everyone has Buddha nature.
Right, the innate potential to become a Buddha.
Exactly. The author translates this into their own framework, stating that everyone has Tao nature. Because you exist within the Tao, you structurally possess all of its characteristics. You have the latent potential to become any kind of life you desire.
Right, the potential is there, but potential doesn't equal reality. The text has a highly relatable analogy for this. It says it's exactly like driving a car.
A great analogy.
Yeah, you might have the latent physical capability to drive. You have hands, you have feet, you have eyesight. But if you just sit behind the wheel without ever learning how the car works, you're not going anywhere.
No, you're not.
To actually drive, you have to practice. You have to learn the traffic rules. Otherwise, your massive potential is completely useless. You're just sitting in a parked car making vroom noises.
And in this metaphor, the traffic rules are the underlying principles of the universe. Understanding things like holographic order and non-obstruction, you have to comprehend the reality of the net to navigate it.
That tracks.
But here is where the text makes a very specific and, well, somewhat restrictive claim. It states that there is a little trick of consciousness required to make that leap.
A trick?
Yes. If you want to immediately enter places like the thousand-year world, you need to execute this specific trick.
Okay, so if I'm listening to this and I want to escape the kingdom of necessity, what is the trick? Does it require meditating on a mountain for 50 years?
Well, this is where the source material becomes a bit elusive. The text notes that this specific trick is explained directly to members of Lifechanyuan, which appears to be the specific community or organization surrounding this philosophy.
Oh, I see.
Alternatively, it claims the trick can be comprehended by anyone who reads the Chanyuan corpus, which is the broader collection of their texts. The author insists that once you know the trick, it's actually quite simple.
We have to call that out, right? We just spent all this time establishing a radically interconnected universal system that binds everything from the stars to a mosquito, only to find out there's essentially a paywall to enlightenment.
It is a bit jarring.
It feels like the text builds a magnificent universal architecture, but then acts as a gated community holding the key.
It's a vital critique of the text's structure. As an analytical reading, it's clear the author is using these massive philosophical concepts to drive the reader toward their specific community and their specific broader texts.
Yeah, it really centralizes it.
Exactly. It promises universal liberation, but centralizes the method of achieving it within the Lifechanyuan organization. It's a fascinating rhetorical strategy, reveal the vastness of the universe, then offer the only map.
It definitely changes how you read the excerpt. It's framed as an accessible piece of knowledge, but it functions more like a password.
It does.
Still, let's pull all of the conceptual ground we've covered today together. Looking at these two translated excerpts from Kuei-Feng Preaching Tao, what is the ultimate baseline for the listener?
Synthesizing the core message of the source material, the ultimate takeaway presented by the author is one of profound egalitarianism, despite the gated nature of the trick we just discussed.
Okay, how so?
The text argues that the greatest creator treats all life equally. The gates to heaven or the kingdom of freedom, the thousand-year world, are genuinely open to everyone.
Open to everyone, okay.
But walking through those unlocked doors isn't automatic. It requires three distinct things. First, enlightenment, which is actively understanding complex characteristics like holography and non-obstruction. Second, merit, which is the quality and resonance of your actions within the divine net. And finally, opportunity.
It's a framework that demands a lot from you. It takes the most mundane moments of your life, like a sneeze, a mosquito bite, a fleeting feeling of anger, and gives them cosmic, multidimensional weight.
It really does.
It suggests that absolutely nothing is random, that you are instantly connected to everything, and that you possess the underlying architecture to navigate this incredible structure if you could only learn how to drive the car.
It demands a radical shift in how we view our responsibility. If every single action echoes across 36 dimensions, and your specific 0.01% difference matters to the entire web, the way we conduct ourselves in the quiet, unseen moments of our day-to-day lives becomes unimaginably important.
Which brings us back to where we started. If the principle of non-obstruction is true, and your consciousness can penetrate a 10-meter-thick iron plate and instantly reach across 20 parallel worlds in absolute zero time, what imprint is the very thought you are having right now leaving on the rest of the universe? Be careful what you think about today.